Hey everybody, it's me, I'm back. Yeah, I wanted to invite y'all on a little journey with me. First of all, I hope that everybody's doing well despite all that 2020 has brought, that you're hanging in there and doing well. I wanted to invite you on a journey with me for the next 7 to 8 weeks, and I wanted to share some of what I wrote in the book because I think it is timely and it will really help somebody. So, for the next 7 to 8 weeks. Well, first off, in the second half of this video, I'm going to talk about why, a little bit, just shortly, why I wrote the book and why David and what we learned from David. And then following that, we will go through each of the giants that we talked about in the book. You know, the giant of ignorance, the giant of fear, fault finding, comparison, regret, all of those. So join me, please, and make comments. Let's form a discussion. Let's see how we can help one another. Let's see how we can go through this because 2020, one of the things that 2020 has taught me, and I think it has taught most of us, is what is really inside. 2020 has caused us to confront giants with all of the COVID and lockdown and political upheaval and racial upheaval. You know, all kinds of emotions have been racing, and we want to kind of figure out why. Why were you feeling angry? Why you felt offended? Why you felt depressed? Why were you scared? So it really was a year that caused us to confront our mindsets and to see how we think about things and how we process things, and to see really and truly what giants standing up in front of our path. So I think is no other time like the present to let's figure these things out. These are the giants that I talk about, are mindsets and thought patterns and emotional upheavals that we go through. And I think there's no better time to just kind of deal with that. So join me on my journey, please, for the next, to the end of the year. And just as the new year starts, we will wrap up with just mentioning a further 7, in case you didn't see any of your giants in the first 7. I doubt that, but yes. And just end the year right and start the new year on a fresh note. Yeah. So thanks for listening. Look out for the second half of the video. Why the video and why the book and why David. All right, bye-bye. So, why the book? I shared a video a little bit earlier when I broadcasted the book about why I wrote the book, but just to recap, they say now that writing a book is a new business card for people that are in fields like life coaching and similar fields, you know, the new business card is a book. And then, of course, there are people that write books to make money. There is nothing wrong with money. We all like money. I mean, who wouldn't want some money? But neither one of those things was my motivation. I really wanted to share testimony. I really wanted to address something that I see all the time, and this is people stuck in positions and going nowhere. And that's basically why I wrote the book. So even if one person can read the book and tackle some of the giants in their life, tackle some of their mindsets and move forward, and their life becomes healthier and more prosperous and fulfilling, then it was worth the book. It was worth the writing of hours of writing. It was worth the editing. It was worth the whole thing for me. So I wanted to just read the introduction to the book so you can understand my mindset a little bit more for you today. So this is what I wrote in the introduction. I have got to get off this hamster wheel. I remember the day very well as I was rushing back to meet my allotted 1-hour lunchtime, having just collected my son's medication. I sat anxiously waiting for the traffic light to change. Boom! These words resounded in my head. I had been on this wheel countless times before. The wheel that led to nowhere. The wheel that kept me scrambling on a treadmill of unfulfilled roles and a passionless life. I blamed no one except myself. I, like thousands, if not millions, had settled into the life of mediocrity. All of us unwilling to face the giants standing on the path of our fulfilled and glorious destinies. I had seen it time and time again, settling for what is traditional, for what is cultural, for what is comfortable or easy, instead of seeking to become the best versions of ourselves. Why? Why has become one of my favorite questions in life. So I sought to ask, why do we settle? I cannot speak for everyone, but I can certainly speak on my own behalf. In every case, there was some sort of Goliath standing on the road to personal success. In fact, there could be several, taunting and intimidating us from progress. So we stay stationary or we take another path, the path of least resistance where it is safe, you know. We may be miserable, but it's safe. We may be broke, but it's safe. We may be lonely, but it's safe. We may be in ill health, but it's safe. We may be dying inside, but it's safe. I want to help. I really do. It breaks my heart to see people living anything less than all God created them to be. I can boldly speak on this topic because I have been there and done that. I've also observed countless others taking their daily treks on the hamster wheel that goes nowhere. So, let us look at some of these Goliaths. Let us see if we can cut off a head or two and take some positive steps to a more fulfilled life. That's what I wrote in the introduction to the book. So after the introduction, we went out to talk about David. Who doesn't love David? I find it intriguing that even non-Bible believers out there love the story of David and Goliath. This is fascinating to me. It is one of the most famous stories ever. But I think it is because we all would like to think that we are some sort of giant slayer in some way, that we are all capable of, cutting off the heads of the things that stand in front of us. So that's why I dug into the story. I studied the Bible verses, and I wanted to see what was behind David's mindset. I wanted to see what we could learn from him so that we are equally capable of doing what he did. Obviously, we don't have literal giants, but we certainly have a lot of emotional and mental giants. So these are the 7 things that we discussed in the book that I learned from David. The 7 lessons. Number 1 was know your why. Know your why. As I said, why has become one of my favorite questions ever. David knew his why. At the very start of everything, he's like, okay, what is going to happen when I slay this giant? Why am I even going to do this? And he got the list and he figured out, okay, if this happens, this is what I'm going to get. So he was clear on his why. The second lesson that we learned from David in the book was ignore the naysayers. He had his brothers there and they're like, go back to doing what you're doing, go get lunch or whatever. And he just completely ignored them because he knew what his why. The third lesson was he knew who he was. David was very assured of what he had accomplished in the past. He knew what his capabilities were. He knew what his abilities were. He knew who he was. The fourth lesson that we learned from David in the book was be yourself. He didn't try to be like Saul. When Saul was saying, okay, take my armor, you're going out there, here's all this equipment. And he's like, no. That's not who I am. Remember we said he knew who he was. He knew what suited him. He knew what resources he needed to go forward. He was himself and he did not try to be like any other person out there. Number 5, he knew his power source. He was altogether assured that God was going to help him. He knew God had helped him in the past, and he knew he wasn't fighting this journey alone. He knew where his source of power came from, and that's what he tapped into. Number 6, he had a plan. He had a plan. Before anything even happened, David was like, listen, this was going to happen, then that's going to happen. I'm going to cut off your head, then that's going to happen. He had it all planned out, and he was able then to run fearlessly towards his goal. So this is what the 6th thing that we learned from David. And 7th thing that we learned from David is that he inspired others. When he accomplished this great feat, this thing that had people shaking in their boots, then when they looked and saw what this boy had done, they were able to go ahead and fight because he was a source of inspiration. So those are the 7 things that we learned, and I discussed briefly at the first chapter of the book so that we can get all fired up for our journey. So join me next week as we tackle our first giant, which is the giant of ignorance. You don't want to miss this. And I want to encourage you to keep joining me and to make comments and see if we can help one another, because I find that one of the most dangerous places to live, and this all ties into the giant we're going to discuss, is thinking that you know everything or thinking that you have it all together, you don't need anybody's help. And we all need help. We all need help. We all struggling with something. We all got to grow up. We all have mindsets to change and to develop. And the world needs us to do that right now. So join me next week as we talk about the giant of ignorance. Thanks for your time. Bye.